And we are back live. Let's get into it. NBA action over the last few days, over the last week, whatever you want to call it. Let's just start with yesterday. We got the Cavs and the Pistons in a real kind of just shootout. I look at both teams. I think the Cavs should just be dominating. I think the series should probably be over. But Cade Cunningham is really just keeping these boys in, knocking down big shot after big shot. And the thing that really bothers me kind of with the Detroit situation is the Malik Beasley. It's like they're literally missing a role player, like a good role player who could, come and get you at least 9 a game. You know what I'm saying? Instead, I'm watching, Karis LeVert out there. You know what I mean? Gerald LeVert, whatever his name is. You know what I mean? And we're watching players we don't really know. And, closing out last night's game was just the Cavs. They were up 9 points, 2 minutes left. You got to be able to close out that game. Cade, you got to just put the ball in your hands and say, I'm shooting every time. I'm not going to be the kind of distributor I am at certain moments, especially in those moments. Nobody's also mentioning the fact that like 75% of the quarter, Cade didn't score. Game ends up going into overtime. They end up losing. Cade had 3 points in the last probably 15 minutes of that actual basketball game. And, I got to look at Cade and place a little bit of blame on him. It's just unacceptable. I know you don't have enough, utensils in the kitchen to work with, but you have to get that done. There's no excuse around why that didn't get completed. So you guys are now down 3-2. That was a home game for you guys. So you guys are going back to Cleveland. Cleveland's trying to close out this series. In about, 24 hours, you guys play, let's just call it 29 hours from now, this whole series might be over. And quite frankly, you guys were probably supposed to lose the last series. If you actually take a deep dive into that Magic series and kind of watch everything that ended up transpiring, is bottom line, the Magic were up 24 points, closeout game, up 3-2 in the series, and they ended up blowing that. It should be Orlando Magic versus the Cavs, and the Cavs series probably would have already been over with that if that was probably the situation. But you got to give respect to the Cavs. James Harden, instead of trying to be point guard distributor, going out and being a scorer is what they need. Donovan Mitchell played terrible yesterday. You know what I mean? As far as just like on a competing level. I remember I looked at the box score at one point and he was like 0 for 7 from 3 and he was like 2 for 11. It just wasn't an impressive feat. Especially from somebody who wants to have a nickname, Spider, which I think is just like, I don't know why they gave you that nickname. I didn't really quite see it. If anybody should be Spider, it should be, Wemby, Daddy Longleg or something. You know what I mean? Spider. And then you always do that same move where you try to go over the top with the ball. It does get a little old, Donovan. You missed a lot of open shots yesterday, but it doesn't matter. You guys won. James Harden led you guys to the victory on the road. 2-2 series, playoffs. Just no way that we can argue that what transpired last night wasn't just, a semi-collapse. Now, of course, we all know Detroit needs more. What are we going to do about it? And then I think to myself, what are we going to do with Cade? He's going to sign the super duper max, but what if he gets tired of Detroit? Next year happens and it looks kind of like this year. And then the following year, like I remember the first 3 years of Cade's career, it was like lost, I think they won 15 games, won 10, won 8. It was something ridiculous. So Cade Cunningham has been there in Detroit going through it with everybody. I think he deserves the utmost respect from the NBA community. It's just, being up 9 with 2 minutes left. Cade, put the ball in your hands. Nobody else is shooting this ball. I got it. Nobody's going to call you a ball hog on the team. Everybody's going to say, whew, felt better with him. What is it? The Thompson twin? He doesn't even want to shoot. Dude's not even looking to shoot. Jalen Duren he had maybe 2 good penetrations, pause, yesterday, and to where I looked at it and was like, oh, okay, there's a little bit of old Jalen Duren there, but it's just, and I get it. They got some big boys. They got Mobley and they got Jared Allen down there, and they're beating up the block down low. But at the same time, Jalen Duren is on the defensive and causing them just as many troubles as they're causing him. So, and Mobley, I think Mobley is the key to every series. I don't think it's going to be James Harden. I don't think it's going to be Donovan Mitchell. I think it's Mobley in whatever Mobley does. Mobley, I remember at one point hit down a big 3 yesterday to kind of inch them closer into that comeback that they mounted. But I look at Mobley and I'm just disappointed. What I watched last year out of Mobley and then what I'm watching this year is just total regression. You know what I mean? It looks like you're not even confident anymore. And it looks like he's playing out of place. I always thought Mobley and Jared Allen were kind of a weird fit together. And I think, one plays better when the other's not in the game. It just clears up the lanes, less confusion. But bottom line is both are such good players. You have to have them on the court. They got to figure this out because next round, we're looking into the Knicks. So we're going to have the Knicks and the Cavs. Or we're going to have the Knicks and the Pistons. Like, I hope it's the Cavs because I just don't think the Pistons have enough firepower to even make it competitive. I mean, that's a gentleman's sweep, it almost smells like. And then you got New York rolling into the NBA Finals while, there's going to be a Western Conference just battle. And let's transition over to there. I'm thinking about Wemby right now and how we've already crowned this guy as some type of elite player that's better than Jordan. And da-da-da. Listen, he has the physical traits that I've never seen in my life. But what we got to admit is those big men get hurt. I got to see Wemby do this, what he's doing for a consistent amount of years before I even compare him. He hasn't even hit level of compare him to Jordan, compare him to Tracy Murray. You haven't played long enough, big dog. He pops an Achilles tomorrow. What do we say about Wemby? He had the ability to go down as one of the greatest all time. That's all we're going to say. We're not going to compare him to the greatest all time. So I don't like when we do it now. Let's chill out. We're a little premature on the Wemby thing. You know what I mean? I think Wemby's a hell of a defensive player. But I think he needs a lot of work on his offensive game. To be that big and to not average 40 is, to me, kind of ridiculous. Like, you know what I'm saying? How is Spider going out here dropping 34 in the second half of a game, but Wemby is certain games just not even present? Like, I remember one of the games in the playoffs, he had like 7 points. You know what I mean? That's like unacceptable. And I think they won. And listen, I know he does it on both ends of the court. So don't get lost in the Wemby, the Wemby sauce here. What I will say is, I think the dude has a lot of ways to go. This isn't just going to be just let's crown this guy and he's the next coming of Jordan and he's better than LeBron. Wemby might play for 5 years. Wemby, do you guys remember Greg Oden? Listen, and I don't have a track record of understanding these big men as to being healthy. They say people big and tall don't even live long. Look at dogs. Let's just use dogs. Homegirl got a 150-pound dog. That boy died after like 4 years. And I'm not saying Wemby's going to die. What I'm saying is that big of a body being able to take a constant pounding, because basketball is really low key, 10 mile. I ain't quite 10 miles, but we're talking 10-mile distance running. Does somebody that big do well with distance running? Those are the questions I ask, And I get it. It's basketball. It's not quite just running the whole time. But yes, it is. Because, I just say all this in the grand scheme of health, right? We can debate semantics all we want. Bottom line is I think Wemby has a lot more work to do. I think he's doing very well right now. I don't want to poo-poo on his parade. But do they beat OKC? Do they beat OKC? Jay Will hasn't played. I swear Jay Will ain't played all playoffs. Maybe he comes back against the Spurs. Maybe that's the only series they're waiting on right now. All right, Jay Will about to be back. And if I'm OKC, go ahead. Y'all keep battling it out. I want Ant-Man to get another one. Go ahead, get you another win so I could prolong this series even longer. And then, there was some truth to what Shay said as far as rest versus rust. But at the same time, I'd rather the Spurs go in there after long series, battle, depleted. You know what I mean? And I look at OKC and I personally am not a Chet guy. I kind of was like a first year or two of his career, and he played in Gonzaga, and that's a Washington school. So I had a little extra love for him, but Chet's just not that dude, and he cannot guard Wemby at all. Especially once Wemby officially figures it out. He's semi-figuring it out now. But once he figures it out, I think Chet has peaked, and I think Wemby is still on the incline. I think Wemby's going to do Chet dirty. Does that affect the series? I think the Spurs go ahead and get 2 games. I think it's maybe game 6, game 7, OKC in 7 because they get home court and that kind of thing. I feel like the series as they play out in the long run of both of these careers, Shea, Jay Will, Chet, Wemby, Castle, all of their crew, Harper, now they're saying Harper's better than De'Aaron Fox. Like, let's chill out a little bit. Like, he's good. I like him. He has moments. Chill out just a little bit. Like, the respect we don't put on players just bothers me sometimes. Somebody has a good week and now he's better than one of the all-time greats with a that are in the Hall of Fame. So I don't know. We can argue a million ways. I think that in the long run, the OKC Spurs series is going to be incredible to watch. I think anybody who loves sports is going to really enjoy it. Personally, I don't think the Spurs are going to win. I don't. I think OKC is going to find a way to just have some type of chance. They got Caruso. They just got seasoned vets. They've been in these moments. And I hate when people use that moment stuff as a thing. But like, Wemby was literally like crying after he won his first series, last series. You know what I mean? So I just don't see them going to the NBA championship. And I'll be honest with you, I don't quite know if I want to watch the Spurs Knicks. I'll gamble on it, but as far as being intrigued or caring about who wins, it just won't be me. I'm more, let's see OKC run it up 2 in a row. Can they go for 3? Can they just be the reason Wemby never gets a ring? It's going to be an interesting next few years of hoop because my Lakers have no shot. So right now, I think it's either you're an OKC fan or a Spurs fan. Over the next 5, 6, 7 years, all these kids are going to be growing up OKC fans, Shai Gilgeous fans, and Wemby fans. And yeah, I know that's the definition of the for projecting of where the league is headed with just as far as fan excitement. People call Shai's boring. Shai is going to be the face of the league. You know what I'm saying? Ant is too. Wemby is too. There's not going to be one face of the league. Was LeBron ever just the face? Like, yeah, you can say that, but last I checked, KD and Steph Curry were in the league. Kobe Bryant was in the league. You know what I mean? Face of the league. Relax on it. There's multiple faces of the league. And that's how the league wants it. They don't want one person representing the league. What if that one person goes and gets a DUI? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, a lot of great hoop. Today's an off day. Iceman drops. Drake's album. Thursday. No games today. Tomorrow we back at it. Probably Spurs closing out the series. Peace.